In Colin Brooks' Lingua Fracta, Towards a Rhetoric of New Media, he argues that the often neglected canon of memory might be better understood as, quote, persistence of cognition, end quote, which, quote, as a memory practice is the ability to build and maintain patterns, although those patterns may be tentative and ultimately fade into the background, end quote. This practice defies the storage perception of memory, in which experiences and information are simply held within the mind as items might be held in a container. Instead, memory, within the realm of new media, relies on external media forms to maintain memories in our minds. Additionally, new media technologies increasingly enable us to engage in and record collective memory-making encounters that might not have been possible in previous eras. For Brooke, memory is important when discussing social and historical events and tragedies because, quote, making those events present helps to shape our community in desired ways, end quote. More importantly, however, in describing the ways new media was used to obscure information after the beating of Rodney King and the Challenger disaster, Brooke notes that, quote, certain characteristics of the event in question are obscured, reshaped as they are remembered for us and to us. Neither event was simply made present to a national media audience. Both involved the establishment or dissolution of certain patterns within which we eventually came to understand them, end quote. The ways in which we remember, then, do more than allow us to call to mind memories. In an electorate era, those individuals who have access to technology can remake these memories constantly, in dangerous or meaningful ways. In shifting away from a passive model of storage and towards understanding memory as practice, Brooke explains, quote, the binary of presence-absence reduces memory to a question of storage, with little thought given to the effects that various media might have on what is being remembered. Over the past century, we have begun to inch away from this legacy, considering not only whether we remember, but how we remember as well, a shift that begins to raise questions of memory practices, end quote. Brooke's question of how we remember calls to mind Gregory Ulmer's My Story project, in which agents trace the experiences that have shaped them throughout 4 discourses: career, family, entertainment, and community. He positions the project as one in which, quote, memory is crucial, since we are testing the power of the punctum, BART, or memory sting, as the connection between personal, organic, living memory and the artificial memory of computing and the web, end quote. Thus, for Ulmer, memory is living, organic, and personal, but perhaps most importantly, memory holds the potential to sting us. Thinking of electorate memory makes me think of grave markers. A marker builds on a literate tradition of writing an epitaph on a stone in a generally linear fashion. Many grave markers literally engage in literate practice by bearing, eternally, texts taken from the Bible, famous poems, or famous books. Graves also bear the names of those below them. But on many graves, it is also customary for visitors to leave gifts such as flowers, cards, rocks, and other items to add to the shrine. The grave itself bears witness to the life of the person beneath the ground, and it perpetuates our rituals surrounding death and our ways of grieving. The visitors, in participating in the memory of the person beneath the ground and the symbol of their being above, actively engage in memory production while they still live. Even reaching the grave of a beloved musician, artist, or writer can inspire a feeling of immense nostalgia, gratitude for influence had, or emotion. As I have visited the graves of famous writers that I've admired for years, a question has haunted me. How can a writer who seems so vibrant on a page experience the same fate that we all must face? Hélène Cixous speaks to the connection between writing and death when she says, quote, writing, a way of leaving no space for death, of pushing back forgetfulness, of never letting oneself be surprised by the abyss, of never becoming resigned, consoled, never turning over in bed to face the wall and drift asleep again, as if nothing had happened, as if nothing could happen, end quote. Perhaps this explains why we, writers, feel such loss, and why we feel such responsibility for remembrance of death. Perhaps this is why we write. Perhaps this is why we feel so compelled to take flowers to graves, to recall anniversaries of deaths, to look through old photo albums, to visit Facebook pages of friends gone too soon, and to author funeral services for those we lose. We have to write to stay alive, to keep death at bay. The graves remind us that we fail and we try. To return to Brooks' question as to how we remember in an electorate society, I would answer painfully. Many of our memories and monuments are tied to historical and personal experiences with death, and we most commonly strive to remember those people we have lost or moments that have ended. These memories, then, are haunted by a sense of loss. But the punctum is also arresting. It can stop us in our tracks and make us think. This arresting sting is painful and often haunts us, disturbs us, and depresses us as we recall the reality of loss, the finitude of experience, and the trauma of life. More positively, the punctum captures the mood or feeling of a person, event, or place, and it therefore holds the power to transport, remake, provoke, or console us. But by stinging us, the punctum also drives us to actively remake and retrace our histories and understandings of the world. This can be viewed in a negative light. Certainly, this raises ethical questions about memory's imprecision and reliability. But it also offers us exciting possibilities in which we might remember otherwise, by considering alternative explanations and ways of understanding our pasts. The art of memory production, collective and personal, is constantly evolving, and memory, when understood through Barth's punctum sting and Ulmer's electorate logic, can never be detached from the effective component of memory practice, creation, and loss.